Entrepreneur, founder, author, and financial advisor Marc Bernstein helps high-performing business owners turn their visions into reality. At March Forward, Marc and his partners and associates think out of the box to partner with their clients in regards to their visions for their lives, their businesses, and their legacies. And through his innovative work with the Forward Focus Forums, Marc connects entrepreneurs to resources that help to fuel their success. Founders Forum is a radio show and podcast where entrepreneurs share their journeys, reveal the stories behind their successes, and the lessons they've learned. Join Marc and his guests for a mix of inspiration, valuable insights, and a bit of fun. Now let's dive in.
Good morning, America. How are you? This is Marc Bernstein, and you're listening to Founders Forum. And I have what I consider to be a very special guest today, and his name is Syd, and I'll formally introduce him in a minute. But we always start with the topic of the day, and I should mention, we're in Babcock Ranch, Florida, on another beautiful, perfect day down here. And Syd, when I say the word innovation, what comes to mind?
Well, at Babcock Ranch, we set out to be the most sustainable, the most innovative, and the most resilient community that's ever been developed. So when I think about innovation, I think about all the opportunities we have to really be leaders and to change the way people think about a new town, if you will. And as an example, Babcock Ranch is the first solar power town in America. It took a long time, but I don't think there's a whole lot more innovative than that. And I would say the other thing that comes to mind is if you want to truly be innovative, it's really hard.
Right, it's hard work.
And if you're not willing to have some thick skin, if you're not willing to be passionate, and to truly believe in what you're doing, then innovation will never happen. And I've always said it's sort of that, that intersection between dreaming and doing that can change the world, and that's why, and how innovation can really lead. First of all, I teed you up pretty well. You're a golfer, I know, so I think that I teed you up pretty well for this show. So, and you did a great job introducing really what this show is about. It's about innovation. It's about the challenges of entrepreneurs. I know it's a smooth ride for you all the way through, right? It's been piece of cake.
Piece of cake, right? So we teed that up perfectly. So let's talk about it. So Syd Kitson is chairman and chief executive officer of Kitson & Partners, a Florida-based real estate development firm which is recognized for its commitment to responsible growth and innovative community planning, as you already alluded to. He's a graduate of Wake Forest University with a degree in economics, and Syd had a notable career in the National Football League. I want to actually talk to you about that a little bit. As an offensive guard for the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. I'm an Eagles fan, so what can I say? After retiring from the NFL, he transitioned into real estate and founded Kitson & Partners in 1999. Syd is best known for leading the creation of Babcock Ranch, the nation's first fully solar-powered, climate-resilient new town. And Babcock Ranch has earned, as I tell people on the radio show all the time, the national distinction, and including recognition by Money Magazine as one of the 50 best places to live in the United States. Beyond his development work, Syd has served in key leadership roles across major civic and business organizations. He's been chair of the Florida Chamber of Commerce, the Florida Council of 100, and the Board of Governors of the State University of Florida. His leadership has been honored with multiple awards, including, I think this is the best one, Time Magazine's Dreamer of the Year, since we're talking about dreaming, the Florida Council of 100's, the Governor's Business Leader Award, Builder Magazine's Legends Award, and Wake Forest University's Distinguished Alumni Award. That's a lot of great honors, Syd.
Well, a lot of people helped us along the way, so thank you. Great to be here too, Marc. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. By the way, the dreamer thing, I just have to mention, I had all kinds of dreams as a kid. I still do. I'm always dreaming. The show's all about moving forward, and that's what my business is about. And my father used to say, you're a dreamer. And he didn't mean it as a compliment. But after many years of working on personal development, growth, and goal setting things and all kinds of work that I've done, I realized that what he really meant to say, I would hope, was that dreams without action don't really work, which is true. And
I think if that's what he meant, he's right.
Right.
I know a lot of people have really good ideas, and they dream big, but they just don't want to take it to that next level where they actually do something to make it a reality. And it takes a certain kind of person to be able to step up and do that kind of thing. But
and as you said it, you didn't say it this way, but hard-headedness almost. Like if you've got a dream,
no question,
and you're innovating, you gotta be totally determined, totally focused.
A lot of people will tell you why it's not going to work.
Right.
But if you believe in it, and it's a sound idea and it can make sense, you have to have that fortitude, that burning. You have to have that burning desire to be able to do it. It's kind of like when I was playing football, the coaches used to say that if you don't have that burning desire in your stomach to be successful, you're not going to be able to get to that level.
So let's start. I'm going to go back to football just for a second, but let's start with your humble beginnings. I don't know if they were humble or not, but in New Jersey. And I think there was something about your childhood that inspired you towards this dream.
Well, I grew up in a small town in New Jersey. We did not have a lot of money, but I had a great family. I was very, very fortunate. Great parents, 2 wonderful sisters. So we had a great family. We didn't have a lot of money, but we didn't know. I grew up in this really wonderful town called New Providence, about 12,000 people in it. And it was almost designed well by accident. It had the downtown and the high school, the school.
Like a town square kind of thing?
It was right in the middle of town.
Okay.
And so what happened, we didn't have busing or anything. You walked to school. And it had the elementary schools, around the town also. But there was something, really wonderful about that, to be able to ride your bike to wherever you wanted to go. So hopefully you'll be able to relate to this. I'm a lot older than you, but when I was a kid.
Thank you for saying that. I don't think you're right about that, by the way, but that's
when I was a kid, my mother would kick us out of the house in the morning and just say, be home for dinner. And so there were no phones, no computers, nothing. And we had a great time just exploring and being part of the outdoors. And I think this generation has sort of lost that feeling of independence that we had when we were kids. Parents are, they want to know where everybody is every second of the day. And when they're not doing that, a lot of times they're on the computers or they're, this social media and all that stuff that I think can be very harmful. The greatest show on earth is right outside your door.
Right.
And I think that's what we've really tried to do here at Babcock Ranch. But growing up, we had a great group of friends. To this day, the people I grew up with I'm still very, very close to, talk to on a regular basis. And that's what a true hometown can bring. And so it was very inspirational to me throughout my life.
So I grew up in Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania. You may have heard of because of malls and things like that. But when I grew up there was one farm that they turned into a development, and that was our neighborhood. And we had an old school building that was from 1900, and everybody would go to the schoolyard. That's what we did. And I know this is part of your story. Parents send you off, say, go play, see you at dinner time. And that's the way I grew up as well. So I just need to tell you from a personal point of view, I mentioned to you that we were looking at other parts of Florida, the East Coast, the West Coast, and everything like that. And it just seemed to us all these kind of, no offense because we're one of them, but like old people, clustered together. And when we came here and tried this and we saw that there's kids around, that there's playgrounds, that there's a school, that inspired us because that's where we want to live in a town. We didn't want to.
It's great to hear you say that because that's exactly what we wanted to create here is a multi-generational community. The only way we could do that was to have a school. We started with a school.
I heard
because otherwise, if you don't, you're going to default in Florida to an empty nester, a senior type community.
Right.
We wanted this to be a true hometown, and you can see that if you go to Food Truck Fridays here at Babcock. We have a lot of events.
We go all the time.
If you're bored here at Babcock, it's because you just don't want to do anything.
Right,
there are so many things to do. But what's so nice about it is when you go to these events, if you will, and you just step back and look. What you'll see is the grandparents, the kids, and the grandkids.
Right.
And usually the grandkids are running around all over the place, and the parents are just, you can just see the families coming together. And here at Babcock, you'll see multi-generational families all throughout this community. But we didn't want to just be a place for empty nesters. And having a true hometown needs to have that multi-generational.
And by the way, I live in a golf community, so it trends a little older. You have over 55 here if people want that, but there's plenty of places to interact with families and kids. And
so
it's where I don't have grandchildren yet, but I can't wait to bring my grandchildren here.
So we do have an age-restricted community here, 55. And we have one at this point. There may be another one in the future, but they are part of something even bigger. Right, so they may have that, but they can right across the street from that community or all the parks. So as you said, I'm a grandparent. I have 6 grandkids. And the big issue here when they come to Babcock, which they do very frequently, is what park to go to. And that's the topic of discussion, and they finally end up going to all of them, and which is a long day because there's a lot of parks here.
By the way, I only frequent the Bark Park at this point. I bring Arlo there. I talk about Arlo on my show too. So
that's great.
My dog is Arlo. So let me say that. So we talked about your childhood, how it influenced you. Let's talk about how football influenced you today. You mentioned it a little bit. But I have a feeling that determination and that grit that you had to do this, and I'm going to ask you about some of that, but I have a feeling that the time you spent in football might have helped with that.
No, there's no question. I was very fortunate to have great high school coaches. When I went to Wake Forest, we had a coaching change in the middle of it, and a coach by the name of John Makovic came in my junior and senior year, and he beat us up really good. And and I mean that in an affectionate way. I mean, he beat us up. And out of 30 members of my class, only 8 of us were left. Everyone else quit. So that work ethic, what he did to us, he wanted to find out who truly wanted to be there, who wanted to win, who was willing to sacrifice to be successful. And it taught me a lot because we had 2 1-10 seasons in a row. And then my senior year, we ended up in the top 20. It was one of the biggest, at the time, one of the biggest turnarounds. We went to a bowl game, and that was unthinkable just a year before. But it really proved how you can, if you have that fortitude, if you have that desire, that passion, that discipline, you can make things work. Definitely took that into the NFL, but more importantly, into the business world. I always tell these former athletes, gosh, use what you learned and find out what you like, find out what you enjoy. For me, my passion is building master plan communities, building new towns. I love what I do. I get up every morning. I know I'm just telling you how I feel. I love what I do. I don't think I've worked a day in my life.
That's wonderful.
And those challenges and everything else, it's just problem solving. I love problem solving. I love the challenges, and it's an everyday thing, and so you don't get bored at all.
Right.
But think about this: the opportunity that I've had to be able to come in with a blank sheet of paper and build a new town. There'll be 22,000 homes, 6 million square feet of commercial space, and to have people trust and believe in what you're doing, from my financial partners to the people who work for the organization, to come together and to create something that nobody's ever done before. We always say we want to be leaders and not followers at Babcock Ranch. So the things we do here are very different than other places. And it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling to know that you have that trust. But we're one of, a handful of people around the entire globe to be able to say we can build a new town coming out of the ground from scratch. And it's a very unique opportunity. I'm very fortunate and very blessed to have been able to do it.
It's an amazing story, and I've tried to follow very closely because I find it fascinating. It's really, by the way, I don't know if you know Lancaster, Pennsylvania, but I did a series there too. Yeah. I grew up near there. I had no idea what's going on there. There's all kinds of entrepreneurialism, and we've talked about that. And I mention often that both Lancaster, PA, and Babcock Ranch are listed amongst the top 25. Top 25 in America is a pretty amazing thing to be able to say.
It really is.
So, quite an achievement. So we covered the football connection. Let's talk about the challenges, because you had this vision, I think, probably 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So tell me about some of the obstacles in the way.
There were just so many. We're actually writing a book on it, but
yeah,
it just starts with, okay, we're going to build a new town. And, when you're Charlotte County and you look at somebody coming in, and in South Florida, there's been a lot of developers who've come in and really not done the right thing when you think about that. And so we came in and said we want to build a new town, but they didn't have a little box that checked to say, here's how you do it. We had to really start from the beginning with all the ordinances and everything that we needed to do. And so that was challenge one, and then getting people to actually believe that what we said we were going to do. That's a biggest challenge. There's such a distrust for so many years with developers. And then, we bought 91,000 acres and then sold 73,000 acres to the state of Florida, and the largest land purchase in the history of the state. That normally takes 7 years, 5 to 7 years. We did it in 1 year.
I've heard that story. It's unbelievable.
So when you kind of pull all that together, there were so many obstacles. To create the first solar-powered town, I didn't realize there were going to be a whole lot of people who didn't want me to do that. I didn't understand that. So it was a very challenging time, but a journey that I will tell you I really enjoyed.
Well, it's an amazing story, and this is a great time for a quick break, and we'll be right back on Founders Forum.
What if your next development could work with nature instead of against it? At Wix Consulting Group, we're a sustainable civil engineering firm, helping land developers build smarter and more resiliently. From stormwater management and floodplain design to ecological engineering and wetland restoration, we design infrastructure that stands up to tomorrow's climate challenges. If you're a developer who cares about resilient, responsible design, not just what's required, but what's right, WCG brings the technical expertise and environmental vision to get it done right the first time. Based in Babcock Ranch, Florida, proven across the nation. Visit wixcg.com or call 239-361-2865 to start your next project with a team that builds tomorrow sustainably today.
So we just talked about tons of challenges that you had, and we also talked about strengths that you brought to the table from football. But I imagine you developed some other strengths through this process. And could you share with our listeners, because our listeners are primarily entrepreneurs, the strengths that you've because you'll also need these for your future vision, I know, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. So what kind of strengths do you see as maybe you and your company, obviously there's a lot of people along with you, to meet these challenges?
I think bringing people on board, hiring people that are smarter than you is
Right.
probably really one of the more important parts of it. Look, we have a really good team, and I think that I've had people who work for us right now have been with me for 30 years. So really having the right people who believe in what you're doing. When we talk about wanting to create a place that works in harmony with nature, to work with nature, to do what's right by the environment, I mean it. And we talk about our core values, our core initiatives, and we talk about how we treat the environment, our energy source, education, which I'd love to talk about, which we are very, very passionate about, and I talk about transportation and technology, health and wellness, and storm safety. And so when people come into organization, they need to know that these aren't words. We believe in it, and we're passionate about every single one of those. And we've dug deep into every one of them. We spent years and years and years on each and every one of those key initiatives. So when they come in here, they're a part of something special. And if they don't believe that, they're not with us very long.
Right.
And so it's truly understanding what the mission is and understanding that each and every one of them can be a part of it. There are some great ideas that we get particularly from some of the younger people coming into the organization. They're full of these fresh ideas, and so many of them are absolutely fantastic, and we've implemented quite a few of them. So that culture of being incredibly transparent, I think people had to get used to that when we first came in, started talking about Babcock Ranch, is we would just tell 100% the truth. Everyone in an organization, and everyone knows this, there's a rule, and that is you can only tell the truth. Anything else, it's cause for termination. I don't care who you're talking to. I don't care if it's homeowners. I don't care if it's our partners or any with each other. You have to tell the truth. That's the only reality that we have.
So that's your culture. I was going to ask you about that.
100%.
That's such a great culture.
By the way, it's amazing how people love to spin things.
Yeah.
and spinning doesn't. And so when you see the rumors or you hear some
We
of the
talked
things
offline a little bit.
I'm not on social media, so I don't see any of it, and I have no time for it, and it's a bunch of nonsense.
Right.
But one thing that I always tell everybody is just be patient. Just be patient, because the truth always comes out one way or the other.
Right.
So
I
love to tell the story about how when I first started talking about how Publix was going to come into Babcock Ranch, and a couple people on social media, again, I was told, because I'm not on social media, but somebody came out and said, there's no way Publix is coming. I know Publix. I work with Publix, and they are not coming to Babcock Ranch. 3 days later, we announced that we signed a lease for Publix coming into Babcock Ranch. My point is that just if you continue to do the right thing, you continue to be transparent and tell the truth, over time, people start to look at the rumors and all the stuff that's out there, and they'll go, well, I don't know if that's true or not. They'll start to doubt those people, who just love to get behind a keyboard and say things that just, quite frankly, aren't true. On the other hand, look, that's a small group of people.
Right.
And I think we all need to realize that. Right. Just most people are awesome.
Right.
I mean, look at this community. Look at the neighbors. Look at how people treat each other. It's wonderful. We get tied up in this little segment of people who seem to dominate the headlines. They dominate social media. And guess what? That's not the way most people feel. And I believe in that from the bottom of my heart. So, again, from a culture perspective within an organization, we preach it and we talk about it every single time we get together. And we get together quite a bit as an organization.
Guess what? I'm going to make sure this podcast gets all over all those social media sites so they can hear this, because I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm so glad to hear you say that. So you've built up a great culture. By the way, I just want to mention one real quick story. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because we already had her on the show, but Amy Wicks is one of your longest-term employees. Also, I should mention Lisa Hall, and I know she doesn't want to be any attention to her, but she's here today, and I know she's one of your very early ones as well, who is how we met.
She's awesome. They're both awesome.
She's awesome, right? You should hear her sing, too. Have you heard Lisa sing?
I have not. But okay. Lisa, we're gonna have to. We
go to open mic night together.
Oh, there you go.
So anyway, but Amy told me the story about, so the reason I'm here is because of Amy Wicks, because my wife, when we were looking to find somewhere else in Southwest Florida, saw the 60 Minutes show where she was interviewed. I think you were interviewed as well. And she said, we ought to check this place out. So I went on the website and it said, hometown for tomorrow. And I'm like, this is right up my alley, because everything I do is about forward-looking and innovation. I'm on the board of a university that's all about, it's a long story, but it's all what I'm about. And by the way, you have a very young spirit, and that's, I think, people that are innovative and are always thinking to the future, it's what keeps you young, and that's one of the reasons I love it, because I feel it's doing the same for me. But Amy said that you called her over like a couple days after you did that video of the water coming up in Lake Babcock and all that, and you said, Amy, what do we do here? Do you remember this conversation? Mm-hmm. And I think she said, correct me if I'm wrong, but she said something like, if we knew what we were doing, this never would have happened, in a good way. Like, in other words, because we didn't have any idea. We started with a blank slate, and we had to figure it out. And to me, that's like the perfect picture of what you're talking about with innovation.
We looked at it very differently. The one thing that we did early on, and I'm not sure if Amy was, she might have been on board. I'm not sure. But in the very, very beginning, I talked to quite a few biologists, hydrologists, and really wanted to get into the science of what we were trying to do at Babcock, and whether it be rehydrating wetlands or whatever. But the first thing I wanted to do was to make sure the land plan was right. And I said to everybody, what's the best way for us to go about planning this? And what we stepped back and said, we need to identify those areas that, where those constraints are, and those areas that we need to stay out of. So we had to find the natural flowways to where the water actually goes.
And that was for sustainability reasons originally.
It's all about sustainability.
Not about storm resistance at first.
Well,
right?
No, it was.
It was also?
Oh, okay. No, it was definitely storm resistance. No, storm resistance was something we worked on from the beginning of the beginning.
Okay.
You have to think about that from the beginning, or you're not going to get it right.
By the way, I want to mention that because we talked about first solar power, we talked about sustainability, but so our listeners know this is probably the most hurricane resilient community in America, I would say.
Very, very purposeful. And Lisa will tell you this. So we found where those natural flowways were. And what happens on a ranch like Babcock, 91,000 acres, 143 square miles.
Right.
That's an area 5 times the size of the island of Manhattan. Yeah. But they dig canals, they drain it. But even with all that, the water's going to go where it wants to go. Mother Nature's going to say, that's where I'm putting the water during an extreme storm. I don't care where the creeks are or where anything is. So we found where those natural flowways were, and we just stayed out of them. That was another thing I got a lot of criticism, along with 100 other things. You can't do that. That's land you should be developing. You should put homes there. That's exactly the wrong thing to do. You got to keep these homes and buildings and structures out of harm's way. So we identified, and so today when you see where Curry Canal is and all those great walking paths that go through these beautifully wooded areas.
I was walking right by there this morning.
Yeah, and those are the flowways. We just stayed out of them, and you can see our whole stormwater system is connected to that, as is the entire lake system. We also have a smart stormwater system that Amy and our group put together where we can move water around the community and drain it so that we can anticipate, when these storms are coming. Now, let's be clear, nothing is perfect.
Right.
During Hurricane Ian, we never lost power, and we're very proud of that. And that was very proactive. Everything is underground, but we did a lot more than that. We own the sewer and water plant. We hardened that. We worked with Florida Power and Light for years to give us a redundant system that allows it to almost self-heal if there's a problem. And then they took all the power that comes into Babcock Ranch and they hardened that. So all these things that we did have created, this resilient community, but it was very purposeful. We were able to do it right from the beginning. If you don't do it right from the beginning, you're always going to have a problem.
The whole thing is remarkable to me. By the way, when I'm walking, the water, because it's very dry right now, is very low, but you can see how much capacity there is that isn't being used right now, which was part of the design, which I totally get.
And those are part of the extremes of Florida. You get right now we're in a drought condition. That'll change.
That'll change, right? we know that'll change, right? Right. So, listen, this has been so great. We only have about a minute and a half left, believe it or not. Time flies when we're having so much fun. But I got a couple quick questions for you. Well, first of all, this is we're so people know when this is actually being recorded. It's in March of 2026. So if we're in March of 2036, and hopefully I'll have the opportunity to talk to you again then, 10 years from now, what would have had to happen in your vision of your life? And I know a lot of that has to do with Babcock Ranch and the things you're working on for you to feel that was a successful 10-year period. Well,
it's always a journey, and that might be the athlete in me, but you're never there in my mind. It's always we're striving to be
there is no destination
as good as to be great, not to be good, but to be great. But when I reflect back, I truly want to make people's lives better and have an impact on the world, not just this community, but if in fact I see, and it's happening right now, which is wonderful. I get calls from all over the world, actually, and throughout the United States. But if they take our game plan and what we've done here at Babcock Ranch, and I hope they take that and actually improve on it. And if I see that 10 years from now, communities coming up, and there are probably 3 or 4 right now that I know they're coming out of the ground that took all of the data and all the work that we did, and if they do that and they just take it one more level, improve on the things that we're doing, then I'll know that we're really onto something special.
Well, if everybody thought like you, imagine what amazing. The world is an amazing place, but it'd be so much more amazing. It's really great. I know you're a reader.
Yes.
What type of books do you like to read?
I love reading biographies. Me too. I'm almost obsessed with learning about, whether it be Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or Benjamin Franklin or I've read so many of them. Phil Knight. It goes on, and I get lost in these books, and I love learning about the journey that everybody has. Everybody has a story. You have a story. Everybody has a story. And I love hearing it and learning from it.
I'm right there with you. That's why I do this show.
Yeah.
I've loved hearing your story today. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Lisa, for putting this together. And thank you, Steve, for engineering. And all of you have a great week and enjoy your life, whatever you're doing.
Founders Forum was brought to you in part by March Forward, LLC. We partner with entrepreneurs like you to assist in accomplishing your future vision, your life, your business, your legacy. Comprehensive wealth planning that starts with you, not a product. We hope you enjoyed your time with Founders Forum and that you found something of value to take with you throughout your day. Join us again next week for another episode of Founders Forum on WWDB 860 AM Philadelphia or on your favorite podcast streaming service. Securities offered through DFPG Investments, LLC. DFPG. Investment advisory services offered through Diversify Advisory Services, LLC. Diversify. DAS and DFPG are affiliated entities. March is unaffiliated with DAS and DFPG. Members FINRA/SIPC. The information provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be interpreted as investment advice. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Diversify or DFPG.